We were definitely very lucky to have the same team for 13 years, and because of that, everyone I work with is very close. However, Danielle Colby's life changed forever when Mike Wolf was convicted of murdering Frank Fritz, the office manager of American Pickers, known for his tattoos, classic style, and indifferent attitude. Now she is facing an unimaginable difficult situation. If you found the story about Frank and Danielle Colby's life interesting, don't forget to like and share this video so everyone can explore it together. Leave a comment with the number 0 below the video to share your thoughts on the difficult situation they are facing. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more shocking and exciting stories in the future. Initially, Colby appeared as a reluctant witness for the prosecution. She tried to maintain a neutral stance throughout the investigation, but as the evidence became increasingly clear, she began to feel that she could no longer remain on the sidelines. The complex relationships within the American Pickers team and the tension between the members made every decision more difficult than ever. New shocking evidence has placed her at the center of the controversy, and this continues to shake the world of antique collecting. Federal investigators announced yesterday that they are expanding their investigation to include Colby, after discovering a series of encrypted text messages between her and Wolf in the days surrounding Fritz's death. These messages, recovered from a backup server, paint a disturbing picture of the possibility that Colby knew about the events leading to the murder. Although she has not been charged with any crime, the pressure on the reality TV star has intensified as authorities dig deeper into the activities of American Pickers, which seem to become more sinister with each new revelation. Colby initially received support from fans for her emotional testimony during Wolf's trial, where she appeared visibly shaken as she described changes in his behavior. "I noticed Mike became obsessed with being the sole face of American Pickers," she testified through tears when talking about reconciliation with Frank. "He became defensive and angry." Her testimony was seen as crucial in securing Wolf's conviction, showing how he increasingly became controlling and paranoid about the possibility of Fritz returning to television. However, digital forensic experts working for the FBI have uncovered evidence suggesting that Colby may know more than she revealed in her testimony. According to court documents released this morning, Colby exchanged over 200 messages with Wolf in the week leading up to Fritz's death, some of which discussed Fritz's medication schedule and when he would be home alone. One particularly damning message was discovered, complicating the investigation further and raising more questions about Colby's true role in these events. The message was sent just hours before Fritz was found unresponsive, stating, "He's currently alone. No one is scheduled to check on him until tomorrow. Window closed." Wolf's reply was, "Handled. Delete this thread." These revelations shocked Colby's fans, who had considered her one of the most genuine characters on the show. They sympathized with her position. Caught between two thieves at odds with each other, never suspecting she could have been involved in the events leading to Fritz's death. Colby's attorney, Margaret Wilson, issued a statement this morning, denying any wrongdoing. Colby has fully cooperated with authorities from the outset of this case. The messages in question were completely taken out of context and do not show any understanding or involvement in criminal activity. The investigation into Colby's connection began when investigators reviewed security footage from Fritz's neighborhood. In the footage, Wolf's car was identified as having arrived at Fritz's residence on the night he died. An advanced analysis of the footage revealed that a passenger remained in the car when Wolf entered the house. Although the facial recognition software did not provide a conclusive result due to the quality of the footage, the passenger could have been Colby. When questioned about this during Wolf's trial, Colby denied being at Fritz's house the night he died. This further fueled suspicion, especially when financial records showed that Colby received a $175,000 transfer from one of Wolf's shell companies just 2 days after Fritz's death. The transfer was labeled as business consulting fees, but investigators found no evidence of any legitimate consulting work. Additionally, Colby purchased a property in Puerto Rico where she spent considerable time just weeks after this payment. Prosecutors are investigating whether this was a payment to maintain her silence. The relationship between Colby and Wolf appears to be far more complicated than the friendship portrayed on television. Members of the crew have spoken out, describing the tense private relationship between the two. A production assistant recalled witnessing a heated argument between Colby and Wolf about Fritz in the months before he left the show. She had told Mike that Frank was becoming a burden and the show would be better off without him. The assistant recalled, "When I walked in, both of them were silent and acted like nothing had happened." The newly discovered diary of Fritz, found in a separate storage, reveals his increasing paranoia towards Wolf and Colby. Fritz wrote, "They whispered when I was near, and I caught them looking through my prescriptions." This completely contradicts Colby's statement during the trial, where she claimed that Fritz fully trusted her and often confided in her about his deteriorating relationship with Wolf. Prosecutors are now examining Colby's testimony for potential perjury charges. History Channel, where American Pickers airs, issued a statement distancing itself from Colby in light of these troubling allegations. "We have suspended all professional relationships with Ms. Colby until the investigation is concluded. We are committed to fully cooperating with authorities to uncover the truth surrounding these tragic events." Colby's rapid rise to fame through American Pickers led her down an unexpected career path. Initially hired to manage Wolf's antique store, she quickly became a fan favorite and grew increasingly prominent on the show. After Fritz's departure, she took on a larger role and often accompanied Wolf on picking trips. Investigators are now looking into whether the expansion of her role and financial compensation are linked to her involvement in a conspiracy against Fritz. Colby's former friends have expressed shock at these allegations. "This is not the Danielle I thought I knew," shared Aaron Murphy, who worked with Colby at Antique Archaeology for many years. Looking back, there were times when she and Mike were focused on private conversations, and she became increasingly secretive about certain aspects of the business. Colby's public image had always been that of an independent and strong woman who maintained her own identity in a male-dominated industry. The investigation has revealed suspicious activities within the business of American Pickers. Financial records show that Colby managed several offshore accounts, with profits from valuable items possibly being redirected to evade taxes. These accounts were set up under shell companies like Vintage Solutions LLC and Rusty Gold Enterprises, which received millions of dollars over the years. Withdrawals from these accounts often coincided with major purchases made by Colby and Wolf. Forensic accountants have traced approximately $3 million. $2 million flowed through these accounts over the 5 years leading up to Fritz's death. What particularly caught investigators' attention was a series of withdrawals totaling $450,000 in the months prior to Fritz's death. This money was not accounted for as any legitimate business expenses. When questioned about these accounts during Wolf's trial, Colby claimed she knew very little about the program's financial activities, a statement that contradicts newly discovered documents bearing her signature as the authorized account manager. Legal experts monitoring the case suggest that Colby could face charges ranging from complicity to murder, obstruction of justice, and financial crimes, depending on what the expanded investigation uncovers. Former federal prosecutor James Harrington, who has closely followed the case, noted that the text messages alone present a serious legal risk for Colby. If prosecutors can prove she knew what Wolf was planning and either provided support or failed to report it, she could face significant prison time. The fallout from the investigation has extended beyond the legal scope, directly affecting Colby's other business ventures. Her online vintage clothing store has seen a sharp decline in orders, and several scheduled appearances at burlesque events have been canceled. Her social media accounts, once filled with vintage fashion and behind-the-scenes glimpses of her life, have remained silent since the new allegations surfaced. Wolf's reaction to the expanded investigation, which now includes Colby, was a notable moment. When informed during a prison interview that she was now under close surveillance, witnesses described him smiling for the first time since his conviction. He was reportedly heard saying, "She knows everything. Ask her about the storage in Davenport. Ask her what we found in Frank's journal." The prison officials ended the interview shortly after that. Fritz's sister, Lisa, who had rarely appeared in public throughout the trial, issued a brief statement through her attorney. "Our family has suspected from the beginning that more than one person was involved in Frank's death. We trust the authorities to uncover the entire truth, no matter how painful it may be, and that is what justice deserves." Former crew members have described an increasingly tense and secretive work environment in the years leading up to Fritz's departure and subsequent death. Former cameraman Jason Miller stated, "It felt like there were two versions of American Pickers. One was the folk treasure hunting show that the audience saw, and then there was the whole other operation behind the scenes. Danielle was always at the center of that second world, managing information and controlling who had access to Mike." Miller also recalled witnessing Colby erase pages from Fritz's personal notebook when he left it unattended during filming. At the time, he didn't think much of it, but now, looking back more suspiciously, he recalled, "She said she was just monitoring the items he cared about so they wouldn't bid against each other, but I was really frustrated when I noticed the missing pages." The investigation is also raising questions about the authenticity of the show. The documents recovered from Wolf's office after his arrest revealed that many of the photos featured on the show had been prearranged, with Colby coordinating with property owners to stage the discoveries. In some cases, valuable items were placed at specific locations to create more dramatic television moments. Colby handled the financial arrangements to compensate the property owners for their involvement in what amounted to elaborate staging. While such activities are not uncommon in reality television, they are in stark contrast to the spontaneous image that American Pickers had cultivated throughout its airing. What's even more concerning are the signs that this deception extended to the on-screen relationships depicted in the show. Text messages between Colby and Wolf, discussing how to maintain the storyline and keep Frank in his designated role, reveal that their on-screen dynamics were carefully manipulated to benefit certain members at the expense of others. At a small cemetery outside Iowa, cars lined the narrow gravel roads more than ever as the television crew, antique collectors, and curious onlookers gathered behind hastily erected barriers. A team of experts was preparing to open Frank Fritz's granite tomb. The beloved American star had passed away a year earlier, and the decision to relocate his final resting place, initially seen as a simple move for local land development, had turned into a major media event. But no one could have predicted the discoveries that would ripple through the world of antiques and beyond. The decision to relocate was made when the small cemetery where Fritz rested was acquired by developers, with plans to expand a nearby historical museum. Ironically, this was the very type of location that Fritz himself may have once visited during his treasure hunting days. Fritz's family reluctantly agreed to the relocation, hoping the process would be simple and that they would be moved to a larger memorial garden just 20 meters away. However, when news of the relocation leaked, the public interest exceeded all expectations. Local officials were overwhelmed and ultimately agreed to allow limited media presence, with the proceeds from the filming rights to be donated to the Crohn's Disease Foundation, honoring Fritz, who had battled the illness throughout his adult life. Although the family initially hesitated, they supported the decision, believing that Fritz would have appreciated the funds being used to help others suffering from the disease. Fritz's sister, Lisa, told reporters, "Frank never wanted any fuss, but he always wanted to help others in the way he could." On the morning of the relocation, the sky was clear and cool. Cemetery workers had prepared the site the day before, clearing the path for equipment and setting up a working area for the experts. Dr. Eleanor Chambers, an experienced archaeological conservator, was invited to oversee the process, ensuring everything was handled with the appropriate care and respect. Dr. Chambers explained to a small group of approved media representatives, "We are handling this with the same protocols we would use for any historical relocation, with additional considerations for the family's wishes." However, she did not mention the specific details of Fritz's burial, which had been kept private at the family's request until now. At exactly 8:30 a.m., the work began. The top granite portion of the tomb was carefully lifted by a small crane, revealing not a traditional coffin but a special preservation chamber. Mike Wolf, Fritz's longtime companion, who watched from a respectful distance, explained that this aligned with Fritz's unusual wishes. "Frank always joked that when he passed he wanted to be surrounded by his favorite photos," Wolf explained. "We all thought he was joking, but after his stroke in 2022, he made arrangements and made his wishes clear." This preservation chamber not only contained Fritz's body, but also a treasure trove of his valuable discoveries. As the conservation team opened the sealed chamber, a sharp gasp echoed through the silent cemetery. Inside Fritz's coffin, specially designed compartments held one of the most remarkable private collections of Americana. These items, which even his closest friends had never seen, were carefully selected by Fritz in his later years to create a personal history museum of the United States. Dr. Chambers, despite her experience with historical artifacts, appeared visibly moved. "In my 20 years of preservation work, I've never seen anything like this," she told reporters. "This isn't just a collection, it's a deeply personal piece of history." The standout item in the collection is an original 1934 Indian motorcycle, complete with its original paint and paperwork tied to its first owner, a Midwestern mail carrier who used it on rural delivery routes. Fritz discovered this motorcycle in a warehouse in Iowa in 2019, but never publicly disclosed it. Motorcycle experts at the scene estimated its value at over $300,000, but its historical significance is priceless. Nearby, an old wooden box containing personal letters from Thomas Edison to a young female inventor was also found in the storage chamber. One of the most remarkable finds was a collection of handcrafted toy cars, each labeled with the name of a child from Iowa Children's Hospital, where Fritz quietly volunteered in his later years. According to hospital staff, Fritz led a workshop for young patients, helping them create miniature replicas of classic cars as part of their therapy. He kept one for each child who participated, a private reminder of the connections he forged, far from the cameras. The item that drew the most attention was in a custom-made glass case at the foot of Fritz's casket. A small leather-bound diary embossed with the words, "The Real Finds," on the cover. Inside, Fritz documented not just the items featured on American Pickers, but the stories of the people behind them. The diary revealed a depth to Fritz's work that even longtime fans couldn't fully appreciate. He wasn't just a collector of objects, but an unofficial historian of ordinary American lives. "This journal is a real treasure," said Mike Wolf, Fritz's longtime companion. "It's Frank telling us what truly mattered to him all along," Wolf said, his voice filled with emotion as he carefully turned each page. The motorcycle collection may be the standout piece, but it's the stories in Fritz's journal that truly capture the heart of who he was. As news of the discoveries spread beyond the cemetery, social media lit up with reactions. Trending hashtags reflected both awe at the collection and deep appreciation for the man behind it. Antique enthusiast groups organized commemorative scavenger events, with proceeds going to historical preservation societies. The History Channel announced a special documentary on Fritz's final collection, with Wolf serving as the host. Major museums, including the Smithsonian Institution, have expressed interest in showcasing the collection as a traveling exhibit. "These items belong together, and they belong to the people Frank connected with," said Smithsonian curator Robert Hensley. "The matter isn't just about their considerable monetary value, but the cultural tapestry these objects represent." After careful consideration, Fritz's family agreed to the idea of the exhibition, on the condition that the collection would ultimately find a permanent home in a museum in Fritz's hometown. Lisa Fritz explained the family's decision. "Frank spent his life bringing forgotten treasures back into the light. The exhibit won't just be a celebration of Fritz's work. It will be a chance for the world to discover a deeper slice of everyday American life, told through the objects he connected with and preserved throughout his picking career." Now, the pieces of this collection can go on to tell the stories Fritz held so dear. Conservation experts worked around the clock for 3 days to catalog and carefully remove each item from storage, documenting its original placement and any notes Fritz had left behind. The process was live-streamed across several platforms, with historians providing context and insights as each new item was revealed. Viewership shattered records for historical content, drawing followers from around the globe. This experience revealed a side of Fritz that even his longtime fans had never fully known. The man who spent decades uncovering America's forgotten treasures, in his final act, assembled one of the greatest collections ever seen. It's not just an exhibition of valuable objects. It's a tribute to the values he championed throughout his life: connection, preservation, and quiet reverence for everyday history. The relocation of his remains, following the safe removal of the collection, was carried out with solemn dignity and deep silence. Fritz's casket was transported to his new resting place in a procession led by vintage vehicles, driven by friends and fellow collectors. His new memorial, designed with input from Wolf and the Fritz family, features elements of classic American roadside architecture, a fitting tribute to a man who spent his life traveling the back roads in search of history. In the weeks following the relocation, attendance at small historical societies and rural museums across the country surged, creating what became known as the Fritz effect. People who had never previously shown interest in historical preservation began to explore the stories within their own communities. Inspired by the final collection of the Picker, museums took great care in preserving and digitizing artifacts, leading to a significant academic breakthrough. While the discoveries from Fritz's collection were making waves in the community, an entirely different story was unfolding at Gas Monkey Garage. Richard Rawlings and the Gas Monkey team were stunned when the FBI raided their shop in Dallas. The narrative provided by authorities didn't quite add up. Was this a routine inspection, or had the FBI uncovered something far more sinister beneath the concrete floors of the garage? Stay with us as we uncover what the FBI found hidden beneath the old floors of Gas Monkey Garage. Troubling contradictions and shocking truths could change everything. At precisely 9:13 a.m. on March 14, 2025, the automotive world was thrown into silence as strange new details emerged surrounding the mysterious FBI raid at Gas Monkey Garage. Authorities had uncovered a chilling secret, shattering any notions of a simple explanation. According to reports from Dallas Morning News, FBI agents executed a search warrant at Rawlings' $4.2 million garage complex in Dallas, Texas. This legendary location, where the Fast and Loud crew has filmed countless builds over the years, held more than just car parts. What they found inside was not only unusual, but deeply concerning. Rumors began circulating almost immediately, with some sources claiming that the FBI wasn't just conducting a routine search. They were tracking leads about something far more dangerous lurking beneath the surface. Whispers about a sealed room, broken concrete, and mysterious objects hastily moved sparked an internet frenzy. While authorities remained silent, rumors spread like wildfire. The moment FBI agents entered the facility, an eerie silence enveloped them, and the case grew increasingly baffling. If you found the story about this mysterious case intriguing, don't forget to like and share this video so everyone can explore it together. Leave a comment with the number 0 below the video to share your thoughts on the mysteries the FBI is facing. The air in the garage was heavy and tense, as if the space itself was suspended in time. Mismatched details, overturned lockers, faint scratches on the concrete floor, and scattered personal items hinted at something unreported. Then came the first bombshell, a cleverly hidden area beneath part of the workshop floor that didn't match the rest. The workshop's blueprints made no mention of it. The concrete had been poured differently, forming an almost invisible seam around a 15 by 20 foot section. As the agents broke through the concrete surface, A hollow space emerged below. Descending through the breach, their flashlights barely pierced the pitch-black darkness, illuminating only fragments of the strange subterranean world they were about to uncover. They stumbled upon a vast chamber, a bunker, lined with rows of metal crates, some corroded and cracked, stacked against the walls. Dusty relics spilled out, rusted mechanical parts and yellowed documents, artifacts that appeared decades old. Among the artifacts, there were intricate car parts of unknown origin, some resembling complex racing engines, while others were prototype components with inexplicable designs. One agent recalled how he carefully opened a small locked box, buried under a pile of oil-soaked rags. Inside were stacks of perfectly preserved black and white photographs, each one more haunting than the last. Faint figures gathered around disassembled vehicles, and some individuals dressed in outdated clothing stared directly into the camera with an unsettling intensity. Some photos appear to show what seems like a car auction at undisclosed locations, while others capture secret meetings between individuals with faces intentionally blurred or scratched. None of the images appear in any public records. Then a discovery left everyone stunned. Amidst the rubble was a worn, leather-bound notebook. Its pages were warped with age, filled with messy handwriting, some entries smudged beyond recognition. But what they could decipher hinted at something unfathomable. The references to collectible vehicles are described only in fragmented details and mention the original version. One name appears repeatedly, though the writer has yet to be confirmed. The notes suggest strange sounds emanating from beneath the garage at night, along with a growing fear that he is being watched. Another box reveals a pocket watch, its glass face cracked and the hands frozen at 2:38 a.m. Next to it lies a rusted metal key and a small pouch containing car badges that don't match any known manufacturers. There was a finely crafted silver medal, its surface tarnished. When the agents finally polished it, they discovered an engraving of Motorworks 1932, with a symbol resembling an eye inside a gear. Tension escalated as the agents uncovered a metal hatch attached to the concrete wall at the end of the room. The door was corroded and sealed with a heavy industrial lock, with no handle and no clear way to open it. The door appeared much older than the garage itself. As the agents attempted to break it open, the sound of metal striking metal echoed through the room like a hollow mechanical groan. The FBI declined to comment on whether they found anything beyond that door. Speculation quickly spread online, with some believing the underground space connected to a complex network of tunnels dating back to Prohibition in Dallas, or perhaps something even more sinister. Others suspected the door concealed evidence of a cover-up so vast that its revelation could shake the automotive world to its very core. Investigators took another step forward when they discovered a hidden passage behind a collapsed wall. Strange mechanical blueprints were stacked inside, featuring spirals, patterns, and geometric shapes that didn't match any known designs. The markings didn't correspond to any recognized manufacturer, yet they seemed deliberately similar to an incomprehensible blueprint. The passage emitted a faint, rhythmic breath of air, carrying the scent of old engine oil and metal, along with something else, an unsettling feeling. Near the entrance to the passageway, they discovered a collection of vintage car parts, each meticulously cataloged using a strange numbering system. Some still bore fragments of VIN plates, but the numbers didn't match any known vehicle registration databases. A single engraved message on a non-factory surface drove investigators to dig even deeper. The discoveries grew even more bizarre. Beneath the rubble was a set of glass jars filled with unknown substances, some crystalline, others dark, viscous solids. Chemical analysis is still underway, but early speculation suggests these compounds could be experimental fuels or oils, substances that defy conventional automotive science. Among the jars was a torn piece of paper, rolled up and scribbled with a shaky hand. The '67 Shelby isn't original. Authorities remain tight-lipped, issuing carefully worded, vague statements that only fuel speculation. The garage remains sealed off, guarded around the clock, and former employees are reportedly under strict instructions not to speak to the media. Neighbors have begun speaking more openly. Some recall seeing unmarked trucks arriving at odd hours, slipping through the gate late at night. Others swear they heard engine noises rumbling from beneath the ground, motors running, metal clashing, long after the shop had officially closed for the day. The eeriest rumors come from former employees who claim they ventured near the sealed-off area, only to experience disorienting headaches and a strange sense of confusion. Memory gaps, and in some cases, vivid nightmares of cars that seem to drive themselves. The mystery surrounding Gas Monkey Garage isn't just deepening, it's veering into something far darker than anyone imagined. Each new revelation feels more like a warning than a breakthrough. One thing is clear, whatever lies beneath that garage floor was never meant to see the light of day. And now that it has, the question remains. Why did the authorities tell a different story in the first place? The original story from officials claimed that Richard Rawlings, star of Fast and Loud, was under investigation for allegedly tampering with VINs and possibly violating import laws. The raid was described as part of a multi-agency crackdown on counterfeit auto parts across the Southwest. Rawlings was reportedly cooperative and told the media he had nothing to hide, suggesting that any irregularities were likely due to paperwork errors stemming from his rapid acquisition process. Although he continued to assert his innocence, Rawlings granted full access to his records and inventory. At first, authorities believed it to be a straightforward case, an auto business unintentionally caught up in a broader investigation into black market parts. However, as more details emerged, that narrative began to unravel. Police initially reported finding documents linked to several high-profile car builds, but the maintenance manager insisted those exact files had been properly maintained and regularly audited. The two accounts contradicted each other on whether the parts were genuine, and the theory of counterfeit parts collapsed. Tests showed that all the parts at Gas Monkey were authentic. Strangely, 3 other shops investigated in the same operation were quickly cleared of charges. However, one of the most disturbing discoveries was the digital records showing that files had been systematically deleted from Gas Monkey's servers, though forensic analysis is still ongoing. The data deletion occurred while the building was under FBI control, with staff evacuated and only federal agents having access to the system. A sealed garage with no unauthorized access, but someone still deliberately erased records. Those responsible would have had both the motive and opportunity to do so, except for the investigators themselves, which only deepened the confusion. The deeper they dug, the more elusive the details became. Notably, the concrete floor that agents used a sledgehammer to break open was not part of the original search warrant. Someone, or something, had directed the agents to that section of the floor, a detail missing from all the official reports. Senior experts such as Dr. Michael Brenner, forensic engineer Marcus Sutton, vehicle authentication expert Paul Murray, and a former ATF investigator deliberated and pieced together a much more complex picture than the original story suggested. Initially, Dr. Brenner leaned toward a connection to organized crime, but his evidence showed no signs of organized criminal involvement. He shifted to another theory. He pointed out the strange concrete pattern and the possibility that the hidden area predated Rawlings' ownership of the building. We could be looking at something historical, sealed off decades ago and forgotten, Brenner theorized. Marcus Sutton, one of the country's leading vehicle authentication experts, raised questions about the ledger and record-keeping style, noting that they aligned with authentication practices from the 1960s and 1970s. Sutton noted, "This isn't like modern-day fraud. It's more like keeping historical records for cars that someone wanted to keep off the books." He suggested that the space may have been used to document ghost cars, vehicles produced outside of the official assembly lines during Detroit's Golden Age. Paul Murray, who spent 25 years investigating auto crimes for the ATF, emphasized the sophistication of the hidden room. "It wasn't built hastily," he said. Murray examined the concrete system, the workmanship, and the document preservation methods. "This was built by experts with the intention of keeping secrets indefinitely," Murray continued. He went further, posing the big question. If this isn't a modern criminal enterprise, then what is it preserving? And why was it sealed off so thoroughly? The question Murray raised truly sparked skepticism. If Rawlings discovered this space during renovations years ago, did he deliberately seal it back up? And if so, why keep it a secret? What do we really believe when we get conflicting information from the authorities? Murray continued. The discoveries grew increasingly bizarre, with more rumors swirling around the raid at Gas Monkey Garage. The timing of this discovery coincided with one of the most controversial car auctions in history, and that may be why the authorities continue to sidestep the truth, refusing to reveal the full story. The connection to Barrett-Jackson, one of the most prestigious car auctions, became the focal point of speculation. People within the automotive industry began to suspect that some of the most valuable cars sold at these auctions had dubious backstories, with matching numbers that weren't truly accurate, and vehicles with fabricated histories. In 2024, before any major scandals could erupt, several high-ranking vehicle authentication experts retired, changed careers, or mysteriously withdrew from public life. These decisions were said to be personal and unofficial, but many within the automotive industry didn't buy it. Several theories emerged, further complicating the case at Gas Monkey Garage and making it harder to understand than ever. New discoveries only strengthened the belief that something dark was lurking behind the valuable classic cars and the silence from authorities. Some believed that powerful figures in the car-collecting world were protecting automotive legends from being exposed as frauds. There were even claims that some authentication experts hadn't just retired, but had been forced to remain silent to keep these myths from being revealed. Although there is no concrete evidence to support these claims, that hasn't stopped people from digging deeper. Over the years, auction houses have released thousands of documents regarding the verification process, but the so-called clear evidence has never materialized. Some records have been sealed or redacted, supposedly to protect the privacy of consigners, while others are merely technical proof from past authentication disputes. Although it hasn't rocked the world yet, Just days before a major Barrett-Jackson auction featuring several million-dollar cars linked to 1960s racing legends, the FBI raided Gas Monkey Garage. Many believe that Rawlings had grown tired of the secrets within the collectible car market and was building a case to expose cars with questionable histories. Did Rawlings or his team accidentally uncover something that made Gas Monkey Garage a target? If the raid was connected to the upcoming auction, the implications are truly terrifying. Rawlings isn't just another television car builder. He's a powerful voice in the collectible car industry, with close ties to wealthy collector groups. If he knows something, or even if he's connected to someone who carried out the raid, it may not be as simple as it appears. One of the biggest fears surrounding the collectible car market is that exposing a history of fraud could cause the value to collapse overnight. If Rawlings had evidence that could threaten valuations in the millions, it could have triggered a defensive reaction from those who own valuable collections, feeling threatened. They don't let things go unchecked. Sudden and unexplained government actions often align with major market events. Businesses get raided, documents disappear, yet the full truth always seems just out of reach. If the Gas Monkey Garage raid wasn't a random coincidence, it could be a warning shot to anyone else who might consider speaking out. Stay silent, or you'll be next. Of course, this could just be speculation. Perhaps Rawlings isn't directly aware of the auction fraud, but what if someone close to him knows? If Rawlings knows too much or is directly involved, then the raid wouldn't be aimed at stopping him. It would be to protect evidence before it could become public property damage in a much larger cover-up. One of the names that has surfaced on collectible car forums is Dennis Collins, Rawlings' close friend and also a car collector. Collins and Rawlings aren't just colleagues. Rawlings and Collins aren't just colleagues, they're close friends, having started together in the world of cars, setting cannonball run records, and remaining tight-knit despite their rise to fame. If Collins has insider information about suspicious cars, what does that mean for Rawlings? Maybe Rawlings isn't involved, but what if he knows something about Collins? Friends, especially those who've known each other before fame, fortune, and the protective bubble of celebrity, might share secrets that only the closest of relationships can hold. If Rawlings knows something that others want to bury, the FBI's sudden raid just as certain cars under scrutiny are about to be auctioned off seems a bit too convenient. The circumstances of the raid almost make dismissing the federal investigation of businesses for regulatory violations seem like just another quiet procedural matter in a world full of such issues. But when the timing aligns perfectly, could it be just that? Should we really accept that so quickly? The hidden car secrets could truly be mysterious discoveries within the automotive world. The first name that comes to mind is Briggs Cunningham Corvettes, a notorious case that still sparks speculation to this day. In 1960, Briggs Cunningham entered 3 Corvettes in the 24 Hours of Le Mans race. After the race, these cars seemingly disappeared, becoming the holy grail for Corvette collectors for decades. Enthusiasts have searched for these cars, knowing they hold significant historical value. In 2012, one of these cars, the third one, was discovered in a warehouse in Florida, hidden under a tarp for many years. The true identity of the car wasn't even known, and its owner was never revealed. This discovery sent shockwaves through the collector community, and the car eventually sold for millions of dollars. However, the details never fully added up. Why was such an important car hidden away for so long? Why did previous owners never look into its history? Even stranger, right after the car was discovered, conflicting claims about its authenticity began to surface. Some experts questioned whether this was truly car number 3 or if parts had been swapped decades earlier. The VN, racing modifications, and historical documents all became subjects of heated debate. Despite these troubling details, the car's origins were eventually confirmed, solidifying its place in automotive history. The mystery surrounding the Cunningham Corvette story deepens, with conspiracy theories suggesting that some collectors had known the car's whereabouts for years, but kept it secret until market conditions were right. Others believe that powerful figures in the Corvette world deliberately concealed information about all 3 cars to control their discovery and sale. The Cunningham Corvette story proves how easily automotive history can be manipulated, and how valuable that manipulation becomes when millions of dollars are at stake. Are we witnessing history repeat itself with Rawlings and Gas Monkey Garage? The authorities may continue to sidestep details, pushing resolutions in the case, reporting anything to close the investigation, and shifting public attention elsewhere. Ultimately, the concrete floor can't speak for any theory, but what we can do is honor the transparency that Rawlings has always championed on his show. Richard Rawlings and his crew have experienced more in a decade of television than most car builders could ever dream of. He's a legend, someone who has left an indelible mark not only on car culture, but also on the public's heart. Before we let this story fade into a neat conclusion, let's take a moment to look back at Rawlings's career, his rise to fame, and the years that shaped him into the bold, confident man who took over television. Born in 1969 in Fort Worth, Texas, Rawlings's life has always revolved around cars. At just 14 years old, he bought his first car, a 1974 green Mercury Comet, with money he saved up from delivering newspapers. While most teenagers focused on school activities, Rawlings was buying, fixing, and flipping cars for profit, even before graduating high school. He flipped nearly 20 cars, showcasing his early talent for spotting value where others didn't. Rawlings' path wasn't always smooth. At 22, he survived a carjacking, being shot through the shoulder in the process. Rather than letting the incident hold him back, he channeled his determination to succeed in his own way. After a brief stint as a police officer, firefighter, and EMT, Rawlings founded Lincoln Press, a printing and advertising company. The thriving business gave him the capital to pursue his true passion: cars. In 2002, Rawlings founded Gas Monkey Garage, although the early years were far from glamorous. The shop initially had no air conditioning or running water, but Rawlings' vision remained clear. He traveled to car shows and events across the country, gradually building the Gas Monkey brand. Rawlings' big breakthrough came in 2007 when he and his friend Dennis Collins broke the Cannonball Run record, driving from New York to Los Angeles in 31 hours and 59 minutes. This achievement caught the media's attention, including recognition from Jay Leno. This pivotal moment elevated Rawlings' reputation in the automotive world. By 2012, his relentless efforts to promote a car restoration show finally paid off when Discovery Channel gave the green light. Fast and Loud was born, blending automotive expertise with entertainment value in a unique formula. The show resonated with viewers beyond just traditional car enthusiasts. Fast and Loud wasn't just a hit. It became a global phenomenon, airing in over 200 countries. If you found the story about Rawlings and the journey of Fast and Loud interesting, Don't forget to like and share this video with your friends to explore it together. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts on the success and impact of this show. And if you haven't subscribed yet, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on more exciting stories in the future. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.